Hello, I'm Sister Rosemarie Greco, the Director of Wisdom House Retreat and Conference Center in Litchfield, Connecticut. Today we're going to have a brief interview with John Dominic Crossan, who is a Professor Emeritus at DePaul University and also one of the foremost Jesus scholars in our time. We welcome Dominic as he speaks at Wisdom House this weekend. He speaks about his research and his book, The Greatest Prayer. This prayer, the Lord's Prayer, is said to be a distinctively Christian prayer. What makes it so distinctive?
What is distinctively Christian about it is that it is not distinctively Christian. It's like wisdom. Wisdom is universal. The most engrossing point is that when Jesus composed this prayer or began the process of this prayer, it's not the Lord's Prayer. I mean, we call it that in the Protestant tradition, but the Lord is not mentioned in there. In fact, I don't know a single Christian thing that's mentioned in there. If you ask people, you know, what are the doctrines of Christianity, tell me if you find anyone in there. Christians today debate and divide over all sorts of things. I don't find any of them in there. So this is what's extraordinary about it. It's a prayer from Jesus for the world, in terms the world can understand.
That is interesting because Christians seem to claim it as our own. And
it is, the paradox is it is our own. And if we really wanted to say the Lord's Prayer, we have to admit that the Lord asks us not to mention the Lord in the Lord's Prayer. Now, if we want to call it that, I'm not going to fight that. In other words, the greatest prayer, I think, in any religion, and this is my challenge to all religions, I think the greatest prayer is that speaks deeply from your own, the heart of your own tradition for the world. There's nothing wrong with speaking from your own tradition to your own tradition. But after a while, you might find yourself talking to yourself. So great prayers from me are ones that speak deeply from the heart of that individual tradition, but for the whole world.
That's a wonderful concept and wonderful reality. What in this prayer are we really asking for then? I mean, there are so many levels of it, but what in essence are we asking for in this prayer?
There's another great paradox in who is doing the asking in this prayer. Is God asking us, or are we asking God? All the verbs in there in the original Greek are in the imperative. Are we ordering God? We don't really say, please God, may we have. We seem to be ordering God, or God is ordering us. And I think that's exactly the duality of this. We do not get it from God, and we do not get it from us. We only get it, namely a just world, in collaboration with God. So God is ordering us, we are ordering God. You will get the kingdom of God when you have daily food for everyone. No debt for tomorrow. You won't get the kingdom of God first, and then we get on to this little stuff here. You won't get this stuff by itself. It's a collaboration with God.
Jesus demands a lot of us. In this prayer, we are asking for really common good for everyone, and not necessarily something for me. You know.
Look at the verb. Look at it's our. The first word is our, not my. I mean, obviously, if it's our, it has to be mine as well. But the my is included in a community, so it's all about our. And it's not talking you to God; it's talking about us or our. So it is a community, and in fact, the model behind it, if you allow for the moment the patriarchal father. It's the home, it's the homesteader, the house builder, the householder. That's the model they have from the Jewish biblical tradition, that a well-run household, we have some idea what it is, everyone gets enough, gets a fair share. Then God is the householder of the world house. Is everyone getting a fair share? Are there, horrible as it would be to say in a household, some children starving while others are overfed? What would you think of that householder? Be it a peasant hut or a royal palace? We'd be horrified. So this prayer demands us of God, God of us, that together we create a just world, and a just world basically is to be determined possibly by the 99%, not the 1%. And a simple question, is everyone getting enough?
How timely, and it almost seems like we haven't understood so much of this prayer, even though we've been saying it for centuries and centuries.
Well, you can see the way we slip out from underneath it. Give us this day our daily bread. We really didn't touch that one. We kind of left that one alone. We couldn't touch it. But debt, pretty soon we slid from debt into trespasses, which nobody really understands except no trespassing signs or something. And then we slipped into sin. So we're asking forgiveness from sin and not forgiveness from debt, which in the biblical tradition is always very closely associated with slavery. So now that we have abolished slavery in the world, the new form of neo-slavery is called international debt. So enough food for today and no debt for tomorrow is the heart of a just world, according to the peasant wisdom of the biblical tradition.
Right. That connection with prayer and justice seems to be really at the heart of this prayer. Did Jesus actually use these words? I mean, we use it in our liturgy as though this was the exact wording. I mean, is it the exact wording or is it the exact concept?
As a historian, I do not think this is the exact words as if Jesus drilled his disciples. Now, say after me, got it. Part of the reason is that when Paul speaks, he speaks of the Abba prayer. Abba, Father. He uses the Aramaic word. I think what Jesus taught people, I don't know if that's too weak a term, taught. What Jesus wanted to say is, if you are in the household of God, if you are in the household of God, then of course you can address God as Abba. In the same way as in my own home, I address my father as Dad. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not infantile. Even as a grown man, I call my father Dad. But only we could do it in the household. Outside, you would talk about my father. So what Jesus is saying is, if you are inside the household of God, then you address God as Abba, as insiders can, and that puts you in charge of and in responsibility for creation, to stop the groaning of creation, as Paul says, most of which groaning we are causing, to stop that, and to take responsibility for the world with God.
I want to thank Professor Crossan for being at Wisdom House this weekend. Wisdom House presents programs in spirituality, education, and the arts, and welcomes all people who seek wisdom. We hope you'll visit us on our website, wisdomhouse.org. You're always welcome here. Thank you.